Now is my guy, Tony Jones, covering the Jazz and the NBA for The Athletic. Good enough to reschedule from last week to this week, which we really appreciate. And Tony joins the show now on a Friday. T, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on, man? How's everything?
We're all right. But I want to start right here with you. I'm well aware of the way people view me, and I have strong opinions about what our country is going through right now. But no matter what I say, and no matter how much I pretend to know what it's like to be you, I don't, and I know that. So I just want to know from your vantage point and people in your community and people that you speak to, what it's been like to be an African-American in this country and in this state. We'll start with over the past 24 hours, but if you want to spread out and talk about a longer time frame than that, the space is yours.
Well, it's a lot of frustration, because, the same thing keeps happening, I think I personally was really frustrated with a lot of the criticism that Colin Kaepernick drew because, he tried to call attention to the issue, which is that, minorities are greatly and adversely affected by police brutality. And, there is a systemic racism issue in this country. And the worst thing about Donald Trump being elected to office in 2016 is that a lot of the racism became a lot more overt. There was always an undercurrent of racism, but the culture in the country had shifted enough that that the racism that was an undercurrent stayed, for the most part, an undercurrent. And now the racism has exploded in the last 4 years. And I put something on my Facebook page last night, reminded me. I wasn't alive, but I'm a historian to a sense. Last night reminded me of 1965 Watts. And people are frustrated because, the peaceful, being peaceful isn't yielding results. So now another way, people are hoping that another way yields results. And, my thing is, and I really love the state that I live in, and I love the people of this state. But even if this is a red state and this state, voted Trump in 2016, I'm going to do everything that I can in November to vote that clown out of office. And I'm going to do everything that I can to have my friends, my family, and everybody just try to vote that person out of office, because the toxic nature of this country right now is at an obscene level. And, right now there's just a dramatic crack in this country that just can't be fixed by the current leadership.
When a law is not applied equally, the law is basically useless. And I don't know that anyone can deny that there's a clear two-tiered application of the Fourth Amendment that goes on in our country. The institutional racism is 100% real. I don't know how other people don't see that, Tony. But again, I don't know exactly how to put it so others don't say that I'm virtual signaling or whatever. That's why I want your opinion on what people, good-intentioned white people and good-intentioned people out there that want to help people like you and your community. I want you to tell me and my listeners, what do you want us to do? How can we help?
I've had, I have a lot of friends, and I'm very blessed. And I've always had friends of all different races, backgrounds, colors. I judge your individual character towards me. And it, in political affiliation, doesn't matter to me. I have a lot of friends who are Trump supporters, I don't understand why they are Trump supporters, but they are good to me, and they're my friends. And I've had friends reach out to me today via text, via social media. I don't know what the answer is because I don't think because nothing is working, and and that's the frustrating part. I was supposed to write a story today about how the Utah Jazz are affected by the projected formats that the NBA will come back from, and I was not in the right frame of mind to do it. So I called my boss and I said, "Listen, Rob, I can't write today. Like my mind is just elsewhere. It's just not on sports. It's not on writing about sports or anything." And my heart breaks, by what's happening in this country, and the racial divide that's in this country. And, I saw it coming from a mile away because I'm a native New Yorker and I've known who Donald Trump was my whole life. He's been, a racist, POS my entire life. And he was elected in the office, and I knew that when he was elected in the office, it would give true racism in this country a voice. I knew it in 2016, and here we are in 2020, and we are living every bit of it.
We'll do the last thing on this, then we'll move on to some other stuff because I thought your work with Jerry and everything else has been great that we need to get to. And I don't get political on the show, but right now it's not a political topic. It's a topic about humanity, and I don't get why people don't necessarily understand it. I hate how everything has been politicized. And what's happened over the past 2 days, Tony, like the COVID thing, the coronavirus thing is one thing. Like for whatever reason, asking for basic decency when it comes to health and policies to keep us healthy is also a political statement. But for whatever reason, like commenting on the fact that you're against murder is also something that's political. I would just encourage you to be a voice for those of us that are well-intentioned and want to help your community to help us know what to do. I've got George Floyd's, the link to where people can donate up on my socials. I think that's something you can do. I think the leaders in this country who have a voice need to speak up and speak louder than they ever have before. It's not an anti-GOP thing, but it is an anti-Donald Trump thing because he crossed a line last night that I don't think he can come back from. And my only thing is I hope that people know now that there really is no doubt the emperor now truly has no clothes. So I would just encourage you, talk to your people, let those of us know who want to help you specifically what we can do, because there is an army of us that want to make sure people like you know that there are more of us than there are of those people that are out in the streets murdering your kind. I hope sincerely, man, I really hope you know that.
Yeah, I do, and I appreciate it. And, and like I said, I've me personally, I've dealt with plenty of racism in this country. I dealt with it growing up. I dealt with it, especially when I lived in Florida before I moved to Salt Lake. Me living in Utah, that's been it's been very, very good in so many ways, and I love it out here, and I love living out here, and I love raising my children out here. So that's not a qualifier for anything. It's just I felt like I wanted to kind of get that out there.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate that. All right, we'll move over now and move on to some other light things that we have you on to talk about when things are normal, but things are not, and I'm just not the type of guy that can brush it aside. I think it's disingenuous. But Tony Jones is with us. Let's talk about the Jerry piece that you did, and you knocked it out of the park, man. It was really good, and we're not New York, we're not Chicago, we're not L.A. We don't have legends that pop up every day, but when we do, we love them, and we all love Jerry, and it was a sad day, although also at the same time grateful that he's no longer in pain. What was that day like for you, the emotions that went through you when you heard the news, and for our listeners that haven't read it, unpack what you wrote?
It was harder than I thought because, I have my grandmother. Bless her heart. She's I believe 95 years old, going to be 96 years old this year. But she's also suffering from dementia, and basically she was an indomitable person, very very indomitable woman, and to see her reduced to what she's reduced to right now, that makes me sad, because I never pictured her that way. And it was kind of the same thing watching Coach Sloan kind of slowly deteriorate, little by little over the years. Even if I had limited, personal interaction with him, he was an indomitable figure from my childhood. You know, I grew up when the Jazz were prevalent in the 1990s, and seeing Jerry Sloan coach that team, seeing John Stockton and Karl Malone run the pick and roll, watching the execution and the precision, and then growing into an adult and into a journalist, into a position where, I was lucky enough to deal with Coach Sloan. That was a wonderful blessing for me. And, he was nothing but nice to me, nothing but helpful to me. We always had a great relationship. There were multiple stories where he took the time to get on the phone with me, even in retirement. I did a big story on Robert Whaley some years ago, around 2014, and Coach made time to meet with me and give me all kinds of great stuff about what kind of person that Robert was behind closed doors. So, I have nothing but respect and admiration, and thanks for the way Coach has treated me and how he dealt with me. And the mark of your true characteristic is how you treat the people that you don't have to treat nicely. And Coach Sloan, I bet you one of the best things that anybody can say about him is that he treated the people nicely that he did not have to treat nicely. And that was a true mark of what kind of a person and what kind of a man he was.
I want to move over now to the news that came out today. July 31st is the date that the commissioner laid out there. It's kind of being misinterpreted. It's not a restart date. It's the earliest date where they could restart. But it's good news that we have pen to paper with the plan now. Tony, of the news cycle today, what have you made of it, and what do you think it means for the potential restart of live hoops?
Well, I think we're going to have hoops in some form. I'm pretty much 100% certain of that. It's not a matter of – I don't think it's a matter of if anymore. It's a matter of when. I've been talking to the league the last few days. I've been told that, the three most likely scenarios are straight to playoffs or some sort of group play or some sort of play-in. I think that it's just about trying to figure out because there are so many different agendas out there right now. That I think that, the league is trying to do a juggling act and keep as many people happy as possible. I don't think everybody's going to be happy by whatever decision is going to be made, but I think if the league can get close to 80% of the people happy by whatever decision is made, I think they will have done well. So I think that, just dealing with that and just dealing with the logistics, including what happens to the media, and including what happens to the players and the families and the coaching staff and the training staff and everything involved, I think that's still going to take some time. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to have basketball.
From a Jazz point of view, Tony, and you wrote about this in great detail, the effect of the Bojan Bogdanovic news. He's out for the season after the wrist surgery. And, of course, it depends on format. Of course, it depends on opponent. And you can get specific with that if you like. But what does the Bojan news mean for the Jazz's bottom line this year when basketball does resume? What's reasonable to expect from them?
Well, I still think they have a second-round ceiling. I do think they can still get out of the first round without Bojan. But I think under almost any scenario that we're talking about right now, they're going to run into the Los Angeles Lakers in the second round, and I think that that's going to be it. So, you know, I would expect the Jazz to have a second round ceiling this year. I do think that this will be a better team next year. I think that, you know, I think they're working on, you know, a free agent addition that, if it comes to fruition, I think will make them a much better team next year. And I think that the familiarity with each other is going to make them a much better team next year as well. You know, so I think that there are ways that this team can improve. I do think that they probably do have a glass ceiling without Bojan this season.
We'll end on this on the basketball side of things. If you had your druthers, if you could call the shots, how would you want the return of basketball to look? What format would you like? In if it was totally up to Tony Jones, what would you say?
Well, there's the practical answer, which is just bring everybody back, go straight to playoffs, 8 teams in the East, 8 teams in the West. But then there are ancillary things that you have to look at, like revenue, which is why we're talking play-ins, right? Like, that's why we're talking play-ins. That's why we're talking group play, because the league absolutely has to figure out a way to get to that revenue spot, which is around 70 games. And, you know, if they can figure out a way to weave that in, then I think that the most likely scenario is you're talking about, you know, a +6 or a +7, which is the group play. You know, so I would say that the best way to do it, you know, just straightforward, is just go straight to the playoffs, and who's ever in the playoffs right now makes the playoffs. But I understand marketing, I understand revenue, and that's why the league right now is hell-bent on getting one of Damian Lillard or Zion Williamson into the playoffs. Like, they are hell-bent because they want Zion Williamson or Damian Lillard against the Lakers rather than having the Memphis Grizzlies against the Lakers, because right now the league is at a revenue crisis, and they want to limit the damage to just this year and just this year's salary cap. Whereas if they don't recoup a lot of the revenue that they've already lost, we're looking at this year and potentially next year. And that's big problems, because that's the 2021 free agency class that everybody's been talking about that features Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, you know, I understand why the league is doing what it's doing, because it absolutely has to try to recoup the revenue that it's already lost.
All right, buddy, we're going to set you loose for today. Appreciate you taking the time and appreciate you rescheduling. But look, over the next little while and really forever, you got to know how many of us have your back, and you've got to know how many of us. And I don't want to create a duality, so I hesitate to talk like that. But you know what I'm saying. There are way more people that love and care for you and your community than there are the people that want to see you harmed. And you got to know that, man. So I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier. Anything that you can share with us as far as how we can tangibly help you and your community, people like me are all ears, and we're here to help. So I don't really know what else to say outside of you stay safe and be well. And you have my number, man, so you use it if you need it, okay?
No problem. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
All right, man. You be good. There he is, Tony Jones. He covers the Jazz and the NBA for the Athletic. And, you know, it's like I said earlier, I have strong feelings about all this. You can probably tell, but I also understand that I'm a white guy that was raised in privilege. So people probably don't want to hear what I have to say. I can pretend like I know what it's like to be Tony Jones, but I don't. Okay, and that's why I wanted to bring him in and let him tell you instead of having me try to fumble my way through it. So.